because you and I have met several times to talk about solar energy. So, to everyone watching at home, this is Steve Deforge of Solar Associates. And how long have you been in the solar energy game for, Steve?
I've been doing solar now for 12 years. I've owned my own company now for 6 of those.
So, solar energy is something that's very prominent here in Northern Ontario, but you've been stretching all over Ontario for some of your work. You got pretty south sometimes, correct?
Yeah, I actually started down south. I started as just a crewman on the roof, working, doing solar installs. And over the course of time, I gathered a wealth of knowledge and I started running crews, being a foreman. Our distributors reached out to me saying, hey, like, you're really good at what you do. You should start thinking opening your own company. So I did, and they started funneling me some work. And that's kind of how I got started in the solar business.
That's incredible. And you've been working on that. So, you said your own company for 6 years.
Yep.
Uh, Now, there is a lot of misunderstanding about solar energy, and I've really learned a lot about it through you. So,
Yep.
today I'd kind of talk about, a bit about solar panels, how easy they are to get installed, the amount of power that they're putting out, and
Yep.
how they age over time. And we're going to talk about that new tax too.
Yes.
The government recently has really made a tax cut to help businesses get solar on a great rebate. So
Yeah.
why don't we start with solar panels? How easy are they, and what's the output we can expect?
Depending on what it is, like if it's for residential or commercial, the solar panels right now we're basically at an all-time high for efficiency levels, so they're only getting better with time. We're basically using kind of almost the same technology as 5 or 6 years ago. It's just we're getting more wattage per square foot now.
Mhm.
So like the same framework that used to hold a 250 watt, we can now fit almost a 390 watts in. So more wattage per square foot basically is kind of the new thing going right now.
So could someone with an old system with older panels upgrade using the existing panels, or is that
Yeah,
still a
Yeah, depending on what it is. So the government's got different classifications. So like if you were a micro fit or a fit, like a large commercial fit project, the classification of a fit one was 2014 and before. There's actually a lot of people, large companies that have the solar farms that are doing what's called repowering. So they're taking out the old 240 watts or 200-watt solar panels and they're installing 380-watt solar panels on them now. They're getting way better bang for their buck, and they're actually generating more revenue this way too. The great thing about it is with the connections we have with solar distributors all over Ontario, if these people are looking to repower their systems, we actually have a way for them to sell their old solar panels to some of our distributors who are looking for some of this, I don't want to call it antiquated, but older technology, because there's always people that are looking for it, right?
Now you talked about the FIT program and the mini FIT. What does that mean? There's a lot of people who don't even know that.
Yeah, so FIT is a feed-in tariff. So basically, the Ontario government came out in 2009, introduced the FIT and the microfit. So the FIT is for large commercial, anything over 10 kilowatts, and microfit is for residential, anything 10 kilowatts and less. Basically, what it is, it's a power purchase agreement where the Ontario government guarantees you on a 20-year contract a fixed rate for the electricity that you produce from your solar system. They'll buy off you at, again, depending on what year, an extremely inflated value compared to what you're purchasing electricity at.
So then that feeds right into the system from your house or from your business if you have it
Exactly.
set up.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't use, so the fits and the microfit, you don't actually use any of the electricity you produce. You're selling 100% of it back to the Ontario government. And you kind of break it down as well. Hey, if I'm paying, right now around 18 to 20 cents per kilowatt, and the government's offering me 40 or 50 or even 80 cents to buy it off me, why would I want to use that when I could sell it for such a surplus, right?
Hmm. So is that common? Are most people selling back the energy they produce, or are people primarily trying to use the energy they produce?
I'd say primarily is sellback, right? So we had the fit in the micro fit from 2009 to 2018, I believe it was canceled. So you have that 9 year period where everybody that was buying solar was installing it to sell it back to the government for, again, profit, right? Since the cancellation of the microfit program, there's now what's called net metering. Because again, we have Doug Ford as our premier, and he's kind of showed his cards and pretty much extinguished any rebates or subsidies or anything towards green energy. Basically, the homeowners or the businesses would have to purchase the systems themselves, and it's not for a sellback purpose now. Now it's connected to your home's or business's electrical system, and we use that solar system to offset purchasing electricity from your electrical provider, basically.
So instead of selling it back, you're getting a reduced rate and
You're
it
getting, so
balances
that's
out.
the thing. So a lot of businesses are on what's called time of use electricity usage, right? So depending on what time it is during the day, we charge you a different rate. So that on peak, mid peak, and off peak. What's great about this new net metering system is as soon as you put up the solar system, we take you off of time of use billing. So if the solar system can't reduce 100% of your bill, the hydro company is going to give you a reduced rate because you are participating in a green program, basically. So you're never going to have to pay that on peak rates.
So that's really actually interesting because we during this COVID piece, peak times have shifted and peak has been a huge discussion. And how important is this energy that's going back into the grid, given overall use? Is it really getting used by the Ontario government? Is it just being stored somewhere? Like, is it actually really make a difference?
On that level, you'd have to talk to the IESO and the OEB, the Ontario Energy Board. How much of the solar energy they're using or how much they're transferring at a certain time, it's really unknown to us.
Hmm.
What we do know, though, is with the net metering customers, so basically, instead of having to install a battery backup, any electricity that's not being used from the property gets sent to the grid. Basically, the grid is offering to be your battery system right now. So they'll store any overproduced electricity in their hydro infrastructure, and you generate credits on your hydro bill, basically, so that you have an 11-month time period from the time of production to use it. So what we like to do here in Northern Ontario is we like to overproduce electricity in the summer months, build up a bulk accumulation of those credits to help offset some of the electricity usage, in December, January, and February, when solar production goes down a little bit, but usage starts to go up. So we offset the summer 100%, and we carry over an abundance of credits to help offset those winter months as well.
See, these are things that most people probably don't know when they're getting into solar energy. I mean, I talk to anyone about it, and they just think it's I'm never going to generate enough to run my house. But that's not what it's about, is it? It's about adding to the system or offsetting the system.
Absolutely. So in a lot of cases, we can offset very close to 100% of customers' hydro bill. The thing is with your delivery charge, there's variable rates and there's fixed rates. The variable rates are based off of the electricity usage that you use. So we can offset those by reducing the amount of electricity you purchase off your hydro provider. But there's always going to be a small portion within your delivery charges that are fixed rates, basically call them connected charges. So
Mhm.
even if we zero out your hydro bill where there's no electricity purchased from your hydro provider, you're still going to get an incremental, probably around 24 to $28 we've seen for the delivery charge. That's basically a connected charge at that point in time.
So in Ontario, you're never going to 100% zero out, but really you are. But it's the added fees that kind of shift that
Exactly.
around. Yeah.
Exactly. So we could zero out your usage, but you're always going to have that small portion of that fixed delivery charge on that bill, no matter what.
So when you talked about efficiency and technology, I thought that was really interesting. So what is the efficiency rate of some of the panels that are going up right now, and what does that efficiency mean?
So the efficiency rate of the solar panels we're using right now are anywhere from 19 to 21%. The efficiency is basically referring to how much energy are we harvesting from that panel that's actually going to be transferred to an inversion through the DC to AC conversion that's usable within a system, basically, right?
Hmm.
We see incremental increases in efficiency, probably like 1% or 2% every couple years. It's not the biggest thing to really look at when you're sourcing a solar panel. When we source solar panels, again, we want to get you the highest efficiency possible. But what we're really looking for is tier one companies who offer the best service, technical support, and warranty, 25 years warranty through their manufacturing process, knowing that they give you great panels, right?
So that 25-year warranty, that's really important because I understand it takes a lot of people are looking to sort of buy back their panels in that sense that they're making their money back. How long does it take someone, an average business or home, to get that money back on a system?
When we were doing the microfit, general payback was anywhere from 7 to 10 years on your return on investment.
Hmm.
Right now, with no government subsidies, not being a business owner, being able to use the accelerated tax benefit, just a residential customer looking to purchase a solar system, they're looking anywhere from 10 to 13 years on a return on investment right now.
So that long warranty is really important then to make sure you get your panel use.
Absolutely. So all the panels that we use come with a standard 25-year warranty. When these companies do their testing efficiencies, they're using them in California and Texas, and the largest degradation value to a solar panel is continuous heat. So the fact that we're here in Canada and we have a cold weather climate for 5 to 6 months out of the year, we're going to get an extended life period out of those solar panels. We have some customers that we talk to that had them installed on their camp in the late 70s, and they're still using them today. So yeah, so the standard life of a solar panel is anywhere from 35 to 45 years, but the warranty on the best panels is going to be 25.
So let's talk about that cold weather climate. What effect does snow have on these things? I guess you got to brush them off every so often. Is that a reality of these sort of units?
It could be. So generally when we sell a system, we notify the customers, hey, like, we do live in Canada, we do have snow. Depending on how steep of the pitch of the roof is or what we're mounting them on. Like if it's a small pitch, the snow is going to accumulate on them and it's not going to shed quite easily. Whereas if it's a steeper slope, it's almost going to have like the metal roof effect where once it accumulates, 6 to 8 inches, it will shed off basically. Depending on what company you talk with. And again, we find this a lot with sales agents who don't want to kind of jeopardize the integrity of their sales pitch. They kind of leave out some information. The projections that we give customers, they actually have within the projections, your system being covered under snow for 5 months. We want to give you worst case scenario, basically. So when we sell you a system, if you like the numbers you see on a worst case scenario, you're going to be very happy and satisfied once you see that increase in number, right? Now, generally, when we install the system too, we always notify the customers, like, listen, with the projections we gave you, it has snow on there. If you're comfortable with that, we don't want you going up on your roof and, jeopardize or risk hurting the system, but worst of all, hurting yourself, right? So that's what we do. We notify the customers ahead of time that, hey, depending on the situation of the roof or the mounting system, there could be an accumulation of snow on your system for 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, I don't want to go up on my roof and shovel snow off. I'm not agile. I'm not great at that.
Yes, customers call us, and we'll go out there once a season. Once they build up 2 or 3 feet of snow, and we'll remove it for them. But again, it's up to the customer. It's a case by case scenario.
See, that makes a lot of sense too. Not every building is going to require that. Talking about the pitch of the roof, right? And that's something to consider when you are getting panels. Yeah. Now, are the panels always on the roof? Because I've seen a lot of you drive across the island, you drive all places, you see these panels in their yard. What's the difference?
So a ground mounted system versus a roof mounted system. So depending on square footage and available space is really going to be the determining factor of if we mount it on the roof or if we mount it on the ground. When you deal with roofs, a lot of times you're dealing with multiple pitches, multiple roof levels. It's just not really suitable, right? You might have large trees or obstructions that cast shadows on the roof. In that instance, we would probably recommend going with a ground mount system. Generally, we like to keep them within 200 feet of the house or where the connection to the hydro system is, because the longer electricity has to travel, you start experiencing line loss, and you're just going to lose a little bit of the electrical conductivity from point A to point B.
Stuff I did not know. I have dealt with you for years, and I am learning stuff about solar energy panels, man.
No, for sure.
There's so much to know here. So that's a good question. Shade.
Yes.
Maybe this is a novice question, but I bet you everyone you sell to is like, what about the cloudy days? Well, how does that affect it?
People, you know what? That's not really a question that too many people have. They're more interested in services that we provide on an ongoing basis, and warranty value. How do I guarantee you're giving me the best products available on the market today? One thing that we do in our proposals is we do what's called a shade analysis. So we have 3D basically modified house that we project in our solar program, and we do a shade analysis. So we'll input any trees or obstructions that are within the area of the house, and it does a full 12-month cycle, and it will actually project if there's any shade that shows up on the roof, and we can show you a kilowatt or kilowatt hour projection of what that system would produce on an annual basis, basically.
That is unreal. That is so cool, because I'd be worried about that kind of stuff, right? I'd be worried about, what about that big old tree getting in the way, right?
That's where the experience of the solar company really comes in, right? So you're leaning on us to give the best professional opinion in our opinion of what we would do. And we have a great philosophy here at Solar Associates. If we wouldn't do it to our house, we don't want to do it to yours.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of times where we take over service contracts for other companies, and when we get up on the roof and we just see the amount of shade that's covered in the panels, and the homeowner is like, well, hey, it's not producing what the company said I would. And you get up there and you look, and right away you could tell, well, hey, like they probably didn't want to jeopardize the integrity of their solar pitch and risk losing the deal by saying, hey, half your system's going to be covered in shade for half the day. So we have to break it to the homeowners after the fact. Like, listen, your system, the way it is right now, this is what it's going to produce, unfortunately, right?
It's interesting that you can just probably see that sometimes, right? Like you've probably seen enough to be like, oh man, I know that's not going to work.
Yeah, I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and basically everything in between. So,
Oh yeah. So actually, I talked to you a couple of months ago, and you're working on a really interesting project, and maybe if we can dive into that really quickly. And it was a homeowner's concern about buying homes with solar panels,
absolutely.
because of that misunderstanding. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we reached out to Cambrian College, and we got a couple co-op students to come in over the winter, and we were developing a realtor training program on how to list and sell homes with solar. Because we've had a few of our customers actually reach out over the years, and we do a lot of Google Analytics and SEO. So we have people from all over Ontario calling us all the time. Before, customers from Kitchener would call us, hey, I'm looking to sell my house. What do we do? And we would just be like, it's not really our cup of tea. Just go find a realtor. And then it started happening with our customers, and we wanted to provide them with the best services possible. So I reached out to a couple realtor friends of mine, and I gave them kind of a crash course on like solar 101 of what, like, listen, this is what you need to do to guarantee getting the best, payback for this customer basically. And we created a package basically that it's an information package on, okay, collect documents. You want to have an ESA certificate. You want to have the IESO contract. You want to have backdated information of profit margins and how long you've had the system, how much you've made each year. And this kind of information is going to help the realtor to present this to somebody else to get you top dollar. We actually had a customer here who had an appraisal value on his fourplex apartment at $379,000. Once I sat down with the realtor and gave him a crash course of exactly what was on this roof, he ended up selling the house in 2 weeks, and he got $439 for the place.
Wow.
This is where the disconnect is. And before this, talking with my realtor friend, he's like, Steve, he's like, we avoid homes with solar like the plague. And it was like, why? And it's basically, they don't know about them, right? So if these realtors don't know about this, and again, homes with solar are going to be forced to sell on the MLS or realtor market just like every other house. But the problem is there's not enough realtors out there who are educated in this to secure their clients the top dollar for their homes, right?
So what is a buyer's concern when what do you hear a lot when, like, I'm going to buy a house but there's solar? I'm kind of concerned. I don't like what's the disconnect?
The number one concern I see is leasing programs. So a few years back, again, the microfit contracts were so profitable that there was a lot of companies from Southern Ontario that were registering the microfits in the homeowners' names, but diverting the funds to their bank accounts basically. And what they do is these homeowners basically signed a 20-year lease where you own the house, but we own your roof. And if you want to sell your house, you need to convince the new homeowner to take over this lease or buy out the system at an inflated price, basically. So when it comes to selling the homes, when it comes to roof leases, that's going to be the biggest probably deterrent on selling a home with solar. If it's self-owned and you own the solar, we haven't experienced any problems because we consider that an asset to the property. Whereas if it's a roof lease, it's almost a liability, right?
So, do you see a lot of that still? A lot of companies trying to lease out your roof now that the FIT program's gone?
Yeah, not anymore. Since the microfit's gone and the government's not paying you like these absorbent rates to purchase the electricity, they're out in Manitoba and Nova Scotia and Saskatchewan where they're running their own kind of programs like that now. Because we have no subsidies or government grants here in Ontario, it's basically just you offsetting your hydro bill. So there's nobody out there that's created a leasing program for that yet. And I would be worrisome if it came too.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a real stumbling block, and I'm concerned about people who may not know enough about it getting a bit bamboozled to be like, oh, cool, this sounds like a great deal, but
Well,
they're
that
probably
they hang a $4,000 check in front of your face and say, "Hey, we'll pay you $4,000 to put this on the roof." But what they don't go over is the 20-page contract that you sign, where you're basically signing off all your rights. They put a lien on the house if you want to sell it. The new potential buyer has to qualify with certain credit terms to meet their leasing agreement. It's a whole kind of can of worms that most homeowners don't want to get into. But unfortunately, we've ran into them a few times where I don't think the homeowners were fully knowledgeable in the contract that they signed, and they don't know exactly what they got themselves into.
well, I'm really glad to see that's not as popular anymore. And I really am glad that we're shifting away from that logic because that doesn't
Absolutely.
sound really
No,
above board to
it
me.
was kind of the bad egg in the solar industry. And again, a lot of the companies that were selling it, they weren't even solar companies. They were just marketing agents or sales agents that basically knew nothing about solar, but they were pretty confident that they can go out and sell it to you, and then basically subcontract out the engineering, the installation, and the warranty and everything else like that to another company who's actually in the solar business.
So now we know about the panels. Before we shift over to business, because I want to talk a bit about the business, about a business purchasing solar for their operations. What are
Absolutely.
some of the other components besides the panel that goes into an installation? Because I see them on the side of the street, but I don't know what happens after the sun hits the panel.
This is the big misconception with solar. Everybody kind of thinks there's all these little parts and all these things that can go wrong, where there's really two or three main components. You have your solar panel and you have an inverter. And on top of that, it would be the racking system. So the racking either is a roof mount rack or a ground mount racking system. Other than that, you have an inverter, which inverts DC to AC electricity so that we could use it within our homes, and the solar panels. And that's basically it.
That's really cool. And I guess that piece is just somewhere on the property somewhere.
Yeah, depending
That
on what you go, like us, we use what's called micro inverters. So we actually put the inverters up on the roof. It's basically a little brain that sits right behind the solar panel. There's a string inverter and there's a micro inverter. So the string inverter is basically you wire about 15 solar panels from panel to panel to panel, and you have a main inverter down on the wall. So you'd be carrying DC voltage from your roof down to the inverter. Whereas us with our micro inverters, we're actually inverting DC to AC right on the roof. So the lines that we bring down to tie into your meter base they're just basically just like a standard 120, 240-volt plug-in that's right in your house.
wow, that's simple, eh?
It's basically that simple, and all the components generally come with a 25-year warranty if you're buying good parts. We do service work not only for our customers but from other people as well that have bought from other companies that are no longer around. And it's really simple. If you have a problem, you log into your monitoring system. It's pretty straightforward and simple. You can see all of your solar panels. If you have 30 panels on your roof and 29 of them are reading 300 watts, and there's one with a big fat zero, we know there's a problem right there. We generally contact the manufacturer and we'll do some troubleshooting over the phone, qualify for what's called an RMA. It's a warranty program, and they'll ship out a new inverter. We come back and we swap it out for you. It's quite simple.
That sounds pretty simple. I like that. Okay, because I didn't know. I always thought there was this big mystery. Like once the sun hits the roof, a magic happens and power occurs. Like
Yeah,
I didn't know.
that's the big misconception. There's really two main components to a solar system. There's not much that can go wrong. There's no moving parts. We generally don't go back to do much service work after the system's been installed. Like when you get into off-grid with battery backup and generator and all that stuff, there's a lot more troubleshooting that goes into that. But when you're dealing with a residential or commercial system, it's no moving parts. There's not much that can go wrong with the system.
So let's dive into commercial for a bit because I mean I think this is where we see these massive installations as opposed to a smaller home installation. Does the amount and size of the installation in a commercial project affect the efficiency? I mean that seems like a silly question, but I wonder is there more load on the system as a result?
No, it does. It's your efficiency is your efficiency. The larger the system gets, it's not going to reduce your efficiency value. Generally, we just go with larger systems to offset more electricity costs for the businesses, right? Like we've dealt with some businesses that have $400 a month hydro bills, and we've dealt with other businesses that are up in $5, 6, $10,000 a month hydro bills. And it really comes down to roof space or available ground space to mount the required solar system to offset whatever portion of that hydro bill, right?
Now, earlier we had mentioned the new government tax exception, and I think this is really exciting, and I want to talk about it. But why don't you give us a quick explanation about it? Because it sounds like a really great way for businesses to get in on solar.
Absolutely. So before 2018, the government had what was called a 50% rule for declining balance with capital cost allowance. So the business was able to depreciate their asset at a 50% value, generally over 5 to 7 years, depending on whatever tax rate the customer was in. They would be able to depreciate 100% of that asset for available tax deductions. What the government did is they actually changed it to a 100% rule. It's called the accelerated tax benefit for businesses. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to promote more businesses to go green. So the classification of solar green energy is 43.2 for CRA, and it qualifies for 100% deduction in year one. We did one system for a customer about 4 months ago on a rental property. It was a fourplex apartment. And with their accelerated tax benefit, they were able to write off an additional $13,000 on year one, on top of their $2,500 annual savings off their hydro bill. So their return on investment was roughly around 5.5 to 6.5 years, roughly.
That is vastly different than what we talked about previously about being a
Absolutely.
13-year return.
Absolutely. And what's great is it's for businesses, and businesses right now, they need as much money as they can. What's great about this is kind of like what we do is at the end of the year, if we're showing a large profit, we'll buy an extra couple solar systems just to take that profit off the books because we know we're going to sell them next year. What's great about this is for businesses that are profitable, that are looking for a way not to pay so much taxes, and instead of buying other assets, you can actually purchase an asset that will reduce an electricity cost for you and give you an available 100% deduction on year one.
So this system is designed to make sure that businesses can save taxes by buying green. Like it's not a scam. This is just
No.
this is what they want you to do.
Most business, that's the thing, even most businesses look at an electricity cost as a fixed cost, and it
Mhm.
really doesn't have to be, because with the solar system reducing your electricity bill, and again, we can get it damn near close to 100%. So like knowing you can operate and not have to have an electricity bill every month, that's quite significant. And when you have the government backing you up and saying, hey, we're going to let you depreciate 100% of your asset in year one so that you can get more capital to do more investments, like it's a win-win situation right now.
When I would go into business as a part of the Green Economy North, that was one of the biggest thing people would ask was how to reduce their electricity bill, and I'd always bring up solar as an option because it is a viable way. I mean, I know I know more now. I should go visit more businesses now that I know this. But I it was that upfront startup cost that
Yeah.
was a challenge for them. Do you
Yeah.
see that across the board? Is that the challenge, or is there any other challenge that businesses are facing getting these things?
I think it's like you just said, it's the upfront cost. So, like, in order for you to reap the benefits of the accelerated tax benefit, like, you have to be a profitable business. And
Mhm.
like, if they're giving you the available, just a small 10 kilowatt, that's $32,000 plus tax. Available deduction for year one is just over 13,000. Like, you need to be showing a nice amount of profit to be able to claim 100% deduction on that alone, right?
So, how important are government programs like this, or like we used to have, federally or provincially, keeping in mind that, federally, we see that the green ticket is really what the Liberals are running on right now. And I'm not here to, besmirch either party, but let's looking specifically at the programs.
Yeah.
How important are they for a business to actually engage in these things?
I think that businesses are actually waiting to get another green on rebate, or the what was the other one we were working on before, the Canadian manufacturers and exporters, where they had the 50% cost
Yeah,
covered.
yeah, yeah.
Businesses are waiting for stuff like that. I think that's the number one deterrent. But I really think that our premier Doug Ford showed his cards. Like, he's not going to be offering anything for the green on rebates or green energy or window replacements or insulation rebates, anything like that. So I think the number one deterrent for businesses is the upfront cost and scared of the unknown. Like you said, what happens with it? Is it magic that happens? Like,
Yeah.
it's basically two components. There's not much that can go wrong. Comes back with a warranty of 25 years. So as long as you have a good company that offers a great workmanship warranty, come out and do your installation so that there's no risk of damaging the structure or the roof that you're putting it on. There shouldn't be too many worries. So I think it's the misconception of what exactly solar is and the initial upfront cost of the installations.
So when we talked about adding value as an asset in your home, we talked about it as a business wise. What is it ever seen as an investment for a business? Are they looking at this as saying, "Cool, I have this asset now. I have this upfront cost." Are they looking at it as an asset to which they can resell their business when they're done? And should they?
Depends on what type of business, right? Like what we found, what we've been working a lot on is the rental industry. So we've been doing a lot of apartment buildings over the last 2 years. We would like to get our foot in the door with some more larger, commercial industries, manufacturers, and stuff like that. But again, to get in the door with those guys, they have 6 different board members and 3 different employees that you need to go through before you can get to anybody with signing authority. Other than that, it's kind of a hard question, really.
Yeah, I'd imagine that to be true too, because because you just developed a whole seminar or a whole piece of documentation to teach someone about the value of solar. So, the higher it goes up the chain, the more people, it's difficult to get that convinced
Yeah, so
thought, right?
solar's not like a vehicle. So you buy a car, and every year your car's worth less money. And not only is it worth less money, you're putting money into it. You got to redo your brakes, your tie rods, your control arms, all this type of stuff. Where solar actually holds its value, and if not even holds its value, it goes up in value. Because with net metering, again, we're offsetting your cost, or we're offsetting how much electricity you buy off of your hydro provider. So if you don't buy any electricity and we net zero your bill, we kind of look forward to hydro rates going up, because that's more money that customer would have had to spend on supplying electricity to that building. And one thing we know about hydro is it goes up every year, anywhere from 6 to 12%. We had Kathleen Wynne, I believe, in 2017, right before she left. She offered the Fair Action Hydro Plan, where she reduced the cost of electricity by 25%. That's going to be coming to an end in November of 2021. So we don't know for sure, but we might see an instantaneous 25% increase to the cost per watt for electricity. And that'll be significant. Like next to California, Ontario is already paying like I think, second or third highest rates for electricity in North America. So the more that hydro goes up for our net metering customers, the better, because it's making your return on investment that much faster, because it's money you would have had to spend on electricity, right?
That's some really good information right there, talking about how solar as an asset will only go up because so will costs that they are
Exactly.
reducing.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful thing right
We
there,
kind of
right?
look at it as, if you spend $30,000 on a solar system right now, you've instantly increased the property value by 30,000. And as hydro rates go up, that solar system is going to retain and actually go up in more value. And again, it comes down to your realtor. If you have an experienced realtor who knows what they're talking about, who knows what they're selling, they can sell this stuff, and you get even more than what the purchase price was.
And I think all day I've been talking to people about the normalization of things, and I think solar is something that also needs to be more normalized, not as mysterious, but just sort of a thing that you do when you buy a house or when you buy an asset. Well, we have to plan for our solar installation because
Absolutely.
that's so important, I think, for long term, energy security and financial stability and that sort of piece, right?
Like I said, most businesses look at hydro as a fixed cost that they have to pay every month, and realistically, it doesn't have to be that way. If it's I'm scared of the unknown, which is a huge thing with just human nature, you don't have to be scared of it. There's so much evidence out there now. We've been running solar systems for just with Ontario Grid Tide for over almost 12 years now. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people's stories that have been posted where they love their investment. And some people that bought like in 2017, they say their biggest regret was not pulling the trigger sooner.
Yeah, I have to absolutely completely agree with that. And in the Greater Sudbury's been talking about net zero, and you brought up net zero
Yeah.
as well, and net zero as an asset to a community. Do you see a lot of municipalities purchasing solar panels as something to reduce their overall carbon emissions as a community?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've worked with French River municipality a couple times. We introduced you to them. They have a few solar systems that they have in French River. And actually, right before Doug Ford slashed all the programs, they were looking to move forward with 2 large 500 kilowatt, like couple $1 million plus solar systems. Because again, the government was guaranteeing you your rate for 20 years. There was absolutely no risk to going into the investment other than just being scared of the unknown, right? And the fact that they already had a few systems installed, they knew what it was all about. So if they were moving forward with this, they weren't scared of the upfront cost because they knew the return on investment was coming, right?
I think that's so powerful too, because what community is Kirkland Lake, right? I mean, that's a small rural community, a powerful community, a passionate community, and one that cares about their environmental impact and their cost. And we see that connection, don't we? Sort of that environmental impact versus cost. We see it all the time. The more you waste, the more you pay. The more you consume electricity, the more you pay. And so solar really seems to be a part of the puzzle that people aren't as focused on right now, and they should be.
Yeah, the reasons Unknown to me, really. I like, if it was me, it would be one of my first things that I look into. If you plan on staying in business and like you're going to be at that location for a while, like it's the number one thing you should be looking at doing to reduce your costs. The big thing for some businesses right now is the unknown. COVID-19 going around, like we were really scared at the beginning too. When it first came in, we didn't know how it was going to affect us, and there's a lot of businesses that are forced to close and probably won't reopen. So that's the unknown part. But like, if you're confident your business isn't going anywhere in the next, 10 to 15 or 20 years, solar should be one of the first things that you're looking at.
I think so. I think that's a really great thing. Before we wrap up, because we talked about some really great stuff here, can people access that, or what's the next steps for your homeowner's guide or home seller's guide to solar? That sounds like a great resource. How do people access that?
Contact us at Solar Associates. We're the number one solar company in Northern Ontario. We do residential, industrial, commercial, off-grid, consulting, service work, you name it, we do it. I think the number one thing is just the hurdle of getting over being scared of the unknown, right? And again, it is a large capital investment, so do some research. Make sure it is something that you want to do. But like, if you're a business and you plan on staying in business, this is something that you should probably be looking into sooner than later. Because like I said, then when we talk to our customers, their number one regret that they usually say is, "Hey, I regret I didn't do this sooner."
I absolutely believe that. All right. So how do people reach out to you if they want to know more about solar, or if we've piqued their interest?
Find us on Google, solarassociates.ca. You can find us on your website as well. We're a member of Green Economy North. We offer services all the way from Niagara Falls, Toronto, Barrie, Richmond Hill, all the way up to Kapuskasing, Timmins, New Liskeard, Elliott Lake, Sault Ste. Marie. So we're all over the place. Basically, 3/4 of Ontario is covered in trees. We cover the rest. So
I love that slogan. I thought you were going to say wherever the sun shines in Ontario, but I like yours better.
Well, no, it was great talking with you today. I hope some of your members or just anybody that tunes in that watches this sees a benefit in going solar.
Me too, man. Me too. Thank you so much. And I look forward to playing this all month to get people into solar. And everyone, if you are interested in solar energy, contact Steve here at Solar Associates, and he can definitely help you out and answer all of your questions like he did for me today. Stay with us later today. We got more great stuff going on. And of course, thank you for following us at Rethink Green. Take care. Thank you so much, Steve.
Cheers, man.